brought to you by Squarespace. This is the story of an aircraft so advanced, so overkill, that it could have won the Cold War without firing a single shot. In the 1960s, Republic started a daring new project, led by ex-Russian aircraft pioneers, the same ones behind the legendary aircraft like the P-47 and F-84. And if that's not enough, it was also capable of carrying a nuclear bomb. But this aircraft would prove to be more than the US could chew and ultimately only destroy its creators. Let's go back in time to answer the question, why did we have to wait so long for the first American operational supersonic VTOL jet? In the early 1960s, both the US Air Force and the US Navy needed a new aircraft. Gone were propeller and early jet aircraft, and supersonic was the new hotness. This study, called the Tactical Fighter Experimental Program, or called TFX for short, aimed to produce a single aircraft that could work for both branches of the armed forces. This jet would also need to be able to carry a heavy armament with fuel and feature high supersonic speed, twin engines, and 2 seats, and probably use variable geometry wings to fit onboard carriers. Unlike nowadays, with Boeing and Lockheed fighting each other for competition for the next generation fighter, back in the 1960s there were many prominent aircraft designers who sent their bids in for the program. Proposals were received from Boeing, General Dynamics, McDonnell, North American, and our hero of the story, Republic. And for Republic, a lot rode on winning this contract. Remember how I said that the US Air Force and US Navy needed new aircraft? Well, that was kinda Republic's fault. For before this contest, their last aircraft was given the call sign Thud. And you know there is a tragic redemption story behind it. 6 engines might seem like overkill on a fighter, but its superior speed gave it all the difference in its mission. This was simply the better jet than anything that the Soviets could muster. And the same could be said of websites. Why use anything but the best? That's right, be a game changer in your industry, or anything else, with a Squarespace website. They have plenty of great templates, or you can have a go building your own design with their powerful code-free builder. And if you're selling products, even better, because they have built-in e-commerce tech to add products and start selling right away. They also have inbuilt email campaign marketing tools that are very easy to use, and their sites are already optimized for mobile phones. Plus, when you click that link, you're actually supporting the channel by helping fund the animations and the editors for the videos that you love so much, so this is all win-win. But I have a treat for viewers as well. You can get 10% off your first site and domain by going to www.squarespace.com/found and become a supporter of the channel and click that link when you need a website. Back to the show. This tale starts with a flashback to the man behind Republic Aviation. Alexander Karvelishvili, better known in the US as Alexander Karveli, was a Georgian-born engineer who emigrated from the Soviet Union after the fall of the Russian Empire, just like Sikorsky did, the man of helicopter fame. He first moved to France, where he graduated from the Aerospace Institute in Paris in 1927, and then moved to America to continue his career. There, he met another Georgian-born aircraft pioneer of Russian ethnicity, Alexander Savitsky, and joined his company called Savitsky Aviation Company, where he worked as the chief engineer. In 1939, the company changed the name to Republic Aviation Company, and this was just the beginning of a legendary aircraft manufacturer. They had a huge success during World War II, producing aircraft like the P-47 in huge numbers, and this is what set up Republic to be the name of the jet era. During the late 40s and 50s, they secured a massive contract with the F-84, built in the thousands. But their next big contract for the Air Force, the F-105 Thunder Chief, that marked what was the beginning of the end for the company. You see, due to several design flaws in the aircraft and the insanely high loss rates that this plane had during the Vietnam War, it was the only US aircraft ever removed from service for this reason. In fact, this aircraft was so poor that not only did it win the name Thud from pilots who flew it, but the production of the aircraft of 1,500 was cut in half by the new Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara, who in turn started the TFX program to replace the ill-fated F-105. So Republic was pretty much in the corner at this point, and they needed to win the TFX to not only keep the company alive, but to win back their honor. Republic, shook by this decision, decided to go in for a chance for redemption with a new fighter and new technologies to blow away any competition in the program. And this design was to be called the AP-100. This concept featured a hybrid delta wing design that was Mach 2.3 capable. Nothing too impressive for the era, but what was crazy that this aircraft would be powered by 6 General Electric J85 turbojet engines. These were the same engines used for the F5, except there were 6 of them. 6! You might think that this is overkill, but it needed that many engines because this was no ordinary plane. It was VTOL, or vertical takeoff and landing capable, meaning it wouldn't even need a runway. The engines would provide power for 3 centrally lined lift fans during takeoff and landing, and behind them a small bomb bay that was located with one purpose only: to carry a nuclear bomb. Behind this bay was another 4th lift fan, probably used for fine adjustments during landing. The AP-100 was a single-seater, but based off drawings and artwork, there was a 2-seater variant being developed as well, to meet the design study requirements. With such a flat fuselage design, which was almost completely filled with engines and lift fans, there wasn't much space for fuel, so fuel tanks would have been located behind the cockpit in the tail section around the nuclear bomb. A somewhat great idea, but you might see in a minute how dangerous that could be. Most likely some fuel would be stored in the wings as well, and having in mind that this was to be as heavy fighter as possible, the hardpoints of the wings would carry missiles such as an AIM-9 and AIM-7 along with additional fuel tanks. But why would a fighter have to carry a nuclear bomb? With very limited space to store fuel, range of this aircraft was probably very limited as well. The idea was for it to be stationed in air bases in Europe or Turkey and have it ready for a quick strike mission on Warsaw Pact states or important Russian port cities. They may have even been used to attack amassed Soviet troops if they tried to push towards the west. And also because this jet was VTOL capable, it could also be based on aircraft carriers as well and present a threat to Soviet fleets because it could take out a whole fleet in one go. Similar to what the Soviets tried to do with the much larger bomber, the Sukhoi T-4, that we've also covered here on the channel. Flying at Mach 2.3, it would have been very hard to intercept, and unlike the Soviet Sotka, which was a bomber, it could fight back any enemy interceptors that tried to shoot it down. Drop the nuke and the mission was done. Easy. But of course, this design was very flawed. Because the wings weren't foldable, the aircraft was not really optimized for maritime operations. Also, having a nuclear bomb so far back would have moved the center of gravity, and after dropping it, the pilot would have trouble controlling the aircraft. Imagine flying a regular patrol mission with a nuclear weapon on board and having to land on an aircraft carrier in rough weather. Definitely not a good idea. Also, the TFX program required a foldable wing aircraft, and the AP-100 wasn't designed with that in mind, meaning it would take up carrier deck space. And you know this was already a huge aircraft, so the flaws kept mounting. And this is exactly why Republic further modified the platform. Their final bid to the US government had small foldable wings, which further reduced drag when flying in swept mode. It was also based on the 2-seater version, and all that nuke in the back of the aircraft nonsense was thrown away. This aircraft also would no longer be VTOL capable, but it was much more solid design that could fit all the needs of both the Navy and the Air Force, but was no longer special. Upon receiving all the bids for the program, the higher-ups weren't happy because none of the submitted designs were really that great. It seemed all of them had flaws, and the engineers at the time couldn't quite iron out the issues. They had to pick the lesser evil in the end, and Boeing and General Dynamics were chosen for the second phase. In 1962, the board decided that Boeing was the winner. However, ultimately McNamara chose the General Dynamics bid due to the most parts being shared between the Navy and the Air Force's version. This led to what we know today as the F-111 Aardvark. Republic was left hanging, and this was their last project. Well, almost. Soon after all this happened, Republic tried whatever they could to survive, working with Fokker on a different aircraft, but their demise was inevitable. In 1965, only 4 years after the AP-100, the stock was bought by Fairchild and they were acquired by them. However, the engineers soon had their part in development on one of the most legendary aircraft of US Air Force history, the Fairchild Republic A-10 Thunderbolt. Because of all the hard work that the engineers had put into this design, Fairchild decided to keep the naming convention of Republic for the A-10 out of respect, and that's the legacy that Republic still lives on today. So that was the story behind the crazy but very interesting and sleek design of the Republic AP-100. I really want to know down in the comments what you think of this jet, and had it been actually built, how the US Air Force would have used it. Thanks for watching.